welcome to the Row by Row Garden Show, the best dadgum gardening show on the radio and internet. Glad to have you this evening, and look in, we got a special guest with us. We got Mr. Andrew Samples here from NatureSafe. Andrew is the regional sales rep for, when I say regional, that means covers a large area.
Yeah.
For NatureSafe, and I'm assuming NatureSafe is one of the largest, if not the largest, organic fertilizer companies?
We're one of them for sure. We're the largest recycling company, actually.
Okay.
What we do is we take various inedible animal materials.
Right.
So when they process cows, pigs, things like that, we take those materials and recycle them, things that would typically go into a landfill.
Right.
Or either some other kind of waste stream, and we capture that.
Makes that good organic fertilizer.
That's right. And it's very similar to cooking bacon. You put a piece of bacon in the pan, the oils come out, and so what we do is we separate the proteins from the oils.
Right, cool. And you come from the big city of Thomasville?
I do, right down the road from you.
Georgia, yep.
That's right.
And a gardener also, so
That's right.
You like the vegetable garden. You stop by quite a bit, and we always talk gardening, like to catch up. And,
yeah,
it's good stuff. You live right north of Thomasville, is that right?
Yep, right out of town, right north of Thomasville.
And the interesting thing is that you used to work for a company before NatureSafe. You worked for the company that produced the Chilean Nitrate that we sell.
Yeah, so I've been in that organic market for a while. And the Chilean Nitrate's a little bit different process. That's actually a mined product.
Right.
With Chilean Nitrate, what they do is they basically blow up the crust of the earth, scoop it into a pile, and leach out the salts.
Wow.
And then they prill it, and that's a OMRI product, organic product.
Yeah.
What's unique about the sodium nitrate is that it's all nitrate.
Right.
So it's a very important tool in the toolkit, just like the meat and bone mill, feather mills, things like that.
As I say, that Chilean Nitrate, boom,
that's right.
It's there. So that's some good stuff. We're going to cover a little bit of that in our main segment there. We're going to get pretty deep in some organic fertilizer because, there's a lot of misconceptions about organics in general.
That's right.
And the garden update for this week, I have noticed my bugs are a little worse than normal. I had to spray my corn for a corn earworm, and it's a little more than knee high. So I noticed the bug pressure seems to be a little more problematic than it has been in the past this time of year. So I'm kind of gearing up. I don't know if other people are seeing that or not. Plus, we've had a lot of cool nights, so we've got an unusual year.
Yeah.
But the bug problem seems to be getting off to a rough start. So I'd encourage everybody to keep a close eye on your garden, especially corn, because you want to control those corn earworms when your plants are small, because you don't want to be battling when your plants are big and they're eating on your corn, because last thing you want is a worm eating on your corn. You want to eat your corn. So we got that going on, and look here, we got sunflowers in the house. Look here, sunflowers and zinnias. Now, all of these sunflowers right here, Miss Hall cut for us, and these are all our mini sunflowers, the different varieties there. And then it's, I think there's some of the mini zinnias in there. I know a couple of them are not, but those are nice. We're really fond of these mini sunflowers this year. They're doing really good.
What are those with the kind of the lighter color?
Yeah, I knew you was going to ask me that. That one right there?
Yeah.
It's either sunlight or sunlight, I believe. Don't hold me to that. She asked me this morning if she wanted me to label them. I said, no, there's no need in that. But anyhow, they are our dwarfs.
Yeah.
They're dwarfs. So they not only are they dwarf in size, but they dwarf in bloom size too. Mm-hmm. So, corny joke of the week. We always like to do a corny joke of the week, and I got one here for you.
Okay.
And I have not shared it with you, have
No, yeah, not.
Okay, why did the melons get married? It's a tough one, isn't it?
That is a tough one.
Why didn't the melons get married? It's didn't. Why didn't the melons get married? Because they can't elope.
Because they can't elope.
Because they can't. You feel free
like
y'all to use our corny jokes this week out there. So let's move on into, get everything straightened up here. Talking about organics. Organics is one of those passionate subjects. If you've ever been around anybody on forums or our Row by Row group, anywhere that people talk about organics, they get extremely passionate about it. And sometimes the passion overruns the facts of the matter is because there's so much misinformation out there about organics, and we're going to attempt to address some of that this week. So organics in general, when somebody says organics, what's one of the first things you think of? Well, it's going to cost you more if you go to the grocery store. You're going to pay a premium for anything that pays organics. But you get this feeling inside that you're doing the best thing, that is healthier for you. Maybe it's better for the environment. You get all those feelings in there because these big companies have done such a great job marketing the term organic that they instill those feelings into us when we see or hear those words. We just feel better about buying organics, even if they cost a little bit more, because we feel like we're doing the right thing. And there is some truth to some of that, but there is some misinformation out there too. For people with organic gardening, it's kind of a whole different situation. Organic gardening is what most people want to achieve. It's what most people want to do, and for good reason. But there is some situations out there that are different or similar to when you're fertilizing or growing what we call conventionally. When we say conventionally, we're talking about with synthetic fertilizers. So organic gardening, fertility is what we're going to try to touch on today. Maybe explain some of that to you so you get a better understanding of it. And let's first of all, let's always say this. I don't care what you're using, there's always some type of trade-off.
That's right.
Whether it's organic or synthetic, but to understand what you're trading off, you can use it more productively.
That's right.
If you understand what the downfalls of those are and you can counteract that, then you can be more successful using these procedures or these products. So that's what we want to dig into. Now, one of the biggest things about organic fertilizer is you want to plan ahead. And we're talking about organic garden, is you want to plan ahead. So with some of the products that you talked about a while ago, such as bone meal, manures, or any of these things, they need to be broken down more so than a synthetic fertilizer, and there's an exception to that, and that's the Chilean Nitrate. But they need to be broken down before they're available to the plant beforehand. Now, what I normally do is about 2 weeks before I get ready to plant, I incorporate them into the soil and start activating them and working them so they release them by the time I plant. Now, let's talk about 5 of the main sources of organic fertilizers. And the number 1 would be manures. Now, we have a lot of chicken manure, and I think we got one here that we sell.
This is the original fertilizer.
This is the original fertilizer.
Original manure.
Yep.
That's
years
and years and years.
The homesteaders back in the day, that's all they had.
That's right. Yep.
So this is a pelletized chicken manure that we sell, and it's a good one, but there again, same thing. You've got to understand how to use it, and I always recommend a couple weeks ahead of time, incorporate this into the soil, let it start breaking down, and then you can come back and side dress after that. Now, you've got chicken manure, which is what this is, and you've got different other kind of manures. And one of the highest nitrogen manures is bat guano. We got a product here that's fish and bat guano, which is a 962, which is unusual to have a nitrogen fertilizer that high.
That's right. It's pretty high analysis.
So a 962, and this same thing, it breaks down a little bit slow, but it works. It's a great product there. In general, bat guano is higher nitrogen than any of the manures out there. And then when you get down to horse, cow manure, then they start dropping off in the amount of nitrogen. Now, then there's another type of manure, and it's called sewer sludge. And if you're familiar with a product that's made up north, it's called mill organite.
That's right.
You've used some of that. Yeah. You've used some of that in your time.
Yeah, I've definitely sold some.
Yeah.
Golf courses. Love that one.
Yeah. And it's sewer sludge. It's a good, but you do not want to use it in a vegetable garden.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that we'll discuss today is with organic fertilization, you're limited in what you can use. But we just wanted to go through these different tools that we have in our toolkit for the farmer to make sure that they understand, or the homesteader or gardener, that they understand how these products work, when they can apply it to use it in a responsible way and most efficient way.
Right. So the mill organite sewer sludge is just a no-no. You can use it in your landscape. You can use it on your lawn, but you don't want to use it in your vegetable garden because of high metal contents or other contaminants in there. So that's a no-no. But any of the other manures are pretty much okay to use. The next one, and I'll let you expand on this because you've already touched on some, is mined minerals, which is another source of organic fertilizers.
That's right. And there's a few mined materials that are OMRI listed. We touched on sodium nitrate.
Chilean nitrate.
Chilean nitrate, bulldog soda. There's a few different names for it. It's a fertilizer that's been used for well over 100 years. One of the first commercially sold.
And you actually visited Chile, where they actually manufacture this.
That's right. Yep. And pretty interesting. Where they mine this material is the driest desert in the world, in the Atacama Desert. And what they do is surface mine it, and then essentially run water over it and leach out those salts. This is a salt-based material, which is very different than some of these other organic materials. It's very unique in that sense. It's all nitrate, so it's all, when you apply it, it's going to go into solution, and the plant's going to either use it or lose it. I mean, you can actually leach it out as well. But there in the Atacama Desert is where they produce that material.
And it's a great product for cool weather organic fertility.
Early spring.
Early spring. When you have trouble with these others converting over,
that's right.
You can always get your nitrogen with the Chilean nitrate. As we've harped on this over and over again, but it being a salt-based fertilizer, you want to be careful and limit how much you use that part of the plant. We normally recommend a third. So never let it be a third more of your fertilizer requirements for that particular plant. Is that pretty much
That's right. Well, if you're an OMRI certified grower and you have a farm, you're supposed to only use 20% of the total nitrogen that you put in over the course of a season.
Right.
You can put more, but you have to get your certifier.
That's per crop, correct?
That's per crop.
Okay.
Right. So you couldn't use 100% on one crop and then none on the other. Say, well, it was 20.
Right.
One thing is it does have sodium in it, so you'll want to limit that. Make sure that over time you can leach that sodium out of your soil while you're able to get those nitrates. So again, you have to learn how to use these products responsibly.
Right. Yeah. Just because it's got Omni on there doesn't necessarily mean you can use it any way, or form, and fashion.
That's right.
To be safe. There is some responsibility you have to take with. Another product, mineral, is green sand. Green sand, I believe, is a good source of. Is it phosphorus?
There's a little bit of potassium in it, and then there's some trace elements in there. And I think most of the value, and I've never used green sand to be honest with you, but I think that's one of the main things with green sand.
Rock phosphates, and these hard rock and soft rock phosphates, and that helps you with your phosphorus, which is your middle number in there on your fertilizer. So that's another one that is a mined product that you can use. Those green sand and the rock phosphates take a little time for them to be broke down. Yeah. So what you really need to do is you need to do your soil sample, know where you're at on those, know how much to apply way in advance so they can break down and be available to that plant.
That's right. So rock phosphate is I believe it's a 0.20 somewhere around in there. Of that, only about 4% of that phosphate is available when you apply it. And then over time, that has to break down in the soil.
And we're talking about over time. We're talking about years.
It could be decades, honestly, with phosphate.
So basically, what you're doing when you apply that is you're trying to remineralize your soils.
Yeah,
that's a tough word. Remineralize.
For some people, it can be.
So that's another one. All right. So let's get into your specialty, animal byproducts.
Yeah. So the company I work for now, NatureSafe, we do feather mills, meat and bone mills. And essentially, like I had mentioned we're basically a recycler, and I'm just in this one little division that's in the fertilizer division. If we didn't sell anything into the fertilizer market, this would all go to animal feeds. So our product is essentially a concentrated animal feed, protein based. So with the sodium nitrate, you have a salt based product. With a product like the NatureSafe products, these are protein based products. Which, and again, like I said, you need to understand the tools that you have in your toolkit available to you. Right. And it's used very similar to how you were talking about the chicken manure. When you incorporate it into the soil, it really jumpstarts microbial activity. So instead of using our materials for animal feeds, it's actually kind of still being used as animal feeds, just feeding microbes.
So this is one of your signature products right here, and it's a pelletized product.
That's right. And it looks a little kind of like your layer pellets.
It does.
If you have chickens. And that's our 855, I believe, what that is.
So that has meat meal, bone meal, feather meal.
And a little bit of SOP in it, sulfate of potash, which is, again, another mined organic material. And and that's just to kick up that potassium a bit. So meat and bone meal is a 961.
Okay.
So what we did there was added some SOP to kick the potassium up. And this also has some calcium in it as well.
Okay, and the blood meal. The blood meal ups your nitrogen a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, you can correct me here, I'm assuming the thought process with developing this product here is you've got a fairly balanced release of nitrogens out there, because each one of them's got a little different chain there where they release on. Blood being the primary that's going to give you the quickest, right? Blood meal is the first one.
Well, they all will sort of release a little bit in the front. But basically what's great about this product is it has a predictable release curve, which is the problem with some organic fertilizers. They can have some inconsistent
And what does that
releases.
curve look like?
It's I mean, it's slower, and I don't want to say it's a complete bell curve, but it's similar to that.
And where would it peak at?
And you're going to basically, depending on where you are in the country, your soil types and various things like that, it'll release in about 8 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
So if you apply it really early in the spring and you go ahead and get it incorporated in, you're going to get about 3 months, about 12 weeks with that material.
And all of that is according to temperature, soil temperature, how much microbes you got in your soil that's feeding. Has a lot of moisture. It has a lot to do with all that, but that's just kind of a general rule there.
Yeah, that's pretty general with any fertilizer.
Right. And in cold weather, it has its problems breaking down compared to what it does in summertime.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in the cold, the good thing about this product is it's not going anywhere. You put it in there, it will be used up by the soil. It's not in a form that leaches, and as long as you incorporate it in the soil, you're not going to get it run off or anything like that.
Right.
So the value with a product like that, you always get the value of what you put down.
Yeah, so a lot of people I've seen actually recommend you apply that in the fall or the year. If you're going to plant early spring, you can apply some of these like late in the fall and just let it sit there and work in the soil. And when you plant in the springtime, boom, it's there.
Yep.
So another one that y'all got that I'm excited about is this baby right here. Now this is a very dusty or fine, I'm going to say fine product right there. We're working with both of these products, doing some testing to see where we can use them at. Actually, I used some of that this morning. I'm doing a test plot with this right here to see how it does in our garden. And also we're working with this product right here. Now talk about this one a minute, because this one to me, I think it's going to fill a huge niche out there in the market.
Yeah. Did you try using that yet?
We've tried it in a watering can. We've not injected or tried it out in the garden yet.
Okay. So this is the product that Greg's holding here is the NatureSafe 777, and it's based on corn steep liquor, which is a byproduct in the wet milling process when they mill corn. It's used again as animal feeds, primarily as used for feeds for animals. But very similar to those products, it's high protein based, plant based. This is a plant based product. So a little bit different. It doesn't have the slow release characteristics that the meat and bone meals do. This one's more up front. And for an organic fertilizer, a 777 is extremely high concentration for an organic
And for
material.
it to be quick and
for it
a
to be
balanced
quick.
formulation, we think that there's something to this product right here. It's really going to be fun for us to test it and see how it goes. Now, you said you've run this through our injector before.
I have, through your
So
injector.
it is, in your opinion, pretty much water soluble.
Yeah, a little bit of,
sticky too, like
I
sugar.
typically would go wash the filter out, but
Right.
I mean, no, I wouldn't even call it clogged, just a little, we talked about trade-offs earlier, and you have that 20-20-20 that you sell. The trade-off between the 20-20-20 and this 777 is that, this 20-20-20 is all high-grade materials that have been refined. It's not organic, so they've got a lot more processes that they can do that, a lot more additives, anti-caking agents, things like that they can add.
Right.
With this, we can't add things like that. So there's a little bit of difference, but I was actually very surprised when I ran it through your injector how well it did and how easy it was to use.
Right. So I'm excited about that one right there. We'll see what we got.
If you were to smell that, and to smell that the guano and fish stuff, the difference in the smell, this almost smells sweet.
Yeah.
It kind of is the
sticky
consistency
like
of
sugar.
it's kind of the consistency of cocoa mix.
Right.
And it also kind of has a little bit of that, reminds me of that smell a little bit too.
You feel good
sweetness.
about this one. Where the fish, you feel like you need to go take a shower after you use the fish. You go on
That's
there.
right.
But this right here, you feel good about. You wash your hands. Go on. It being plant-based, it is a cleaner, more pleasant product to use. Let's just put it that way.
For sure.
Than some of the others. All right, and compost and worm castings. I grouped this one in there also because a lot of people, although good compost has very small amounts of fertility or nutrients in it, we put it out in such large quantities that we get a bang from it. And then worm castings the same way. If you measure the nutrient level in worm castings, it's not a whole lot, but you put it out there and you just see a lot of magic happen with those.
That's right.
Now, I'll be honest with you, I've used worm castings a lot. I don't really understand it, but it in compost almost works magic on some plants sometimes. It may not show on paper that they got the nutrient load that you think it does, but man, it's that carbon, it's those microbes in there that breaks things down that just really make plants look good.
That's right.
The problem with them is you have to use them in such large quantities. And a lot of people don't have access to good compost.
That's right.
So compost can be a problem. However, I always tell people if you got access to good quality compost, you got to do it.
Right,
You just got.
You're lucky if you have access to really good compost.
But you got to do it. Plant-based. Now, there's a lot of plant-based organic fertilizers out there. Cottonseed meal. Let's see what else there.
And you can throw that 777 in there in the plant-based as well.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't put it in there, but I guess you could. So you got cottonseed meal. You got a soybean meal, alfalfa meal. Now these normally are on the smaller end of the range as far, except for soybean meal. Most of these are like a 3-2-3 or something like that when you analysis. However, your soybean meal, it being a legume, is going to bump up there to somewhere around 13%. So you can actually buy a 50-pound bag of soybean meal at 13% nitrogen. And of my opinion, of all the plant-based, not including this one because we don't really know how that one's going to react yet, but I'm talking about cottonseed meal, and alfalfa meal and soybean meal. Soybean meal be the fastest acting of the three.
Okay.
But here's the problem. $279 for a 50-pound bag. So it's not affordable to be able to use that for most people. So although it being a good source here, there again we got that trade-off of it costs so much, most people cannot use that particular product. So we have each one of those right there. I think we covered them all as far as I can tell, of how they break down and how they are available to the plant. Certain things, let's just touch on a crop like corn. If you was going to grow a organic crop of corn, this might be a fertilizer program you could have. So you incorporate something like your, what do we call the analysis on this?
This is an 855.
855. You could incorporate this at what? 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds per thousand. No, it would be 12.5. You could go up probably high as 20 pounds per thousand.
You could.
On pre-plant. Then at planting, you could come in there and once it comes up, you could apply. You could side dress or inject just Chilean Nitrate. Then you could come back with something like this right here, this Mallet 777.
That's right.
And then you could alternate back some of the Chilean Nitrate to get all your nitrogen. And with this and this product here, you could probably make a pretty decent organic corn crop.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good way to do it. We also have a feather mill, just feather mill based, and it's a 1300.
Wow.
So, and that would want to be pre-plant as well, because most of those meat and bone meal, feather mill products, like I said, they have an 8 to 12 week release curve. And about the time that corn gets to where it needs all that nitrogen is when that material is going to starts releasing.
So that would pretty
it's
much
it's a good option too.
Yeah, to keep you up all the way through there. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to give a recommendation on when to use these types of materials and the sodium nitrate, if your corn's getting yellow and you need nitrogen, that's when you use the sodium nitrate. And it certainly has a place.
Right. And I always tell people on the
fast.
Corn, if you're not burning the tips of your corn, you're not got enough fertilizer out of that.
Yeah.
So corn, you want it nice and green. If your corn's not, it's the same thing with tomatoes and your nightshades. They're heavy feeders as well. If they're not nice and green, you need to punch something to them. You need to do it quick. Because what happens is just like we are, when we're not well fed or we don't have plenty of nutrients, that's when diseases and insect problems jump on. I ain't gonna say insect problems jump on us, but they jump on the plant. When that plant becomes weakened is when it's more susceptible to those diseases and insect issues to happen there. So if you keep your plants healthy, that's a good way to not have as much as those other problems.
Yep.
Well, I got a little something I want you to try.
Uh-oh.
Yep. So I want you to see here at these yellow canaries. We grew these in the garden. This is the first year. We did a show on them last week. I think we talked about these and another one called the Rosy Finch. But that's just absolutely a
nice.
wonderful plant. And I brought you one.
I like that size too.
Yeah. So we'll try these right here. You do some flavor profile on them. The yellow seems to have a little tart to it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great patio tomato, or snacking tomato, salad tomato, or all that.
Nice and fresh. That's a nice, fresh, citrusy kind of
It is.
taste to it. Now, I got something a little different for you.
Okay.
These are some that I grew, and these are chocolate cherry tomatoes. And these come off a plant that actually overwintered. I had it in a 5-gallon bucket, and I'd bring it in when it was cold.
Really?
Bring it out. So it's producing a little bit, but I have noticed it's producing a little bit smaller tomatoes than it did last year. But as long as it's still putting some out, I'm okay with it.
Wow. Have you ever noticed the more unique dark color into them, the more
Like salty.
profound the flavor is on them? That is
Those are
awesome.
similar little, they almost taste to me like Cherokee purples. They're just little tiny, little, good little salad
Man, you
tomatoes.
can just eat your bowl for them. couldn't you?
My chicken loves these too. Boat snack. Yeah, he'll tear
You got
those up.
chickens? Mm-hmm. You name your chickens?
Most of them, they have to kind of earn a name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We got 2 new ones, blue and blue too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Blue and blue too.
both of them's blue.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got 10 of them total now.
Wow.
They're not all laying, but we've got 10
Yeah.
right now.
You regular homesteader. Got your garden, got your chickens.
We got the garden, we got the chickens. Went and bought some hog panels the other day. Gonna probably get a couple little piggies here soon.
Yep. Well, I hope we've helped some people
Absolutely.
with the organic garden today, maybe understand it just a little bit better.
Yep.
And you know, as passionate as we can all be about organics, let's just back up sometime and look at the facts of it. And
right.
what that does, it helps take the emotion out of it and helps us to understand it more and to be better at gardening and understand it. We could be more successful.
That's right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You talked about planning. As long as you plan and you understand your crop needs, what that crop is going to actually remove from the soil, you need to make sure that's there, especially if you're doing organic and this regenerative where you're trying to build these soils instead of constantly depleting them.
Right.
And these are all good tools to help you rebuild your soil.
Yep. All right. Well, good deal. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Use these tools, get out there and be successful and grow your own food. Now it is time to get out there and get dirty.